Well, welcome, Amitabh. I should explain that this is a breakaway from a session that was going to take place on Sunday on Make in India, but Amitabh has to be in Chandigarh on Sunday with the Prime Minister and the French President and 28 French CEOs, which shows that we've got a guy who's in the middle of things on the platform. That debate will still take place on Sunday, but this is the interview part of it for the next half hour. Most bureaucrats many bureaucrats get through their careers by doing as little as possible, hoping that by doing so not very much, they'll survive and get to the end. Our guest on the platform tonight is the reverse of that. At the moment, he's got 3 jobs. It's often common in government for ministers to have 3 jobs, but very rare for bureaucrats to do it. He's the secretary for DIPP, which is Industrial Promotion. He's set up and run the Delhi-Mumbai Industrial Corridor Corporation and Project, and he's just been appointed the CEO of Niti Aayog, the underperforming replacement for the Planning Commission. His job there will be to make it perform. His job for the past year or two has been to make manufacturing industry perform, or at least to make investors perform. He's an expert in branding. I was on a platform here with him 5 years ago for his book, Branding India, which he wrote after running the Incredible India tourism campaign and the Kerala campaign as well. And then he moved on when Narendra Modi became Prime Minister to set up the Make in India brand, whether it's a policy we'll discuss, but the brand. And then last Saturday, he spent the day organising a mega event for the Prime Minister for Startup India. So he's done 4 brands, and he's got a 5th to come, which is to sort out the new Planning Commission. But let's focus on those 4, very briefly. Which is the most successful? Which is the most difficult? Which has got the most hope? Kerala, tourism, Make in India, Startup India.
Well, I think the one which has the maximum potential is Startup India, because India is really hungry for growth. The ambition is to grow at 9 to 10% over a very long period of time. And, you need to bring in disruption in India's economy. And the only people who can do it are the young people. And there's so much of energy, there's so much of enthusiasm, there's so much of vibrancy and dynamism amongst India's youth. The number of startups you meet, they're doing so many incredible things across digital technology, across manufacturing, across social innovation, that I think the future really lies with the youth of India. And to my mind, the future lies with Startup India more than anything else.
But that was an announcement of a load of hopes. I mean, you did some definitions of high-tech startups, you did some tax breaks. There's going to be an app where people can apply and set up and register a new company in just one day, like you can do in Singapore. That app's going to, a whole load of things is hopes. How much of it's really going to happen?
I think the key really is that, you've got to make compliances extremely easy. India has the 3rd best ecosystem in terms of the number of startups that are happening across the world. It's largely in the digital world. You need to expand it. You need millions of young startups. They're the ones who are going to create jobs. So you need to make compliances extremely easy. You need to actually do away with any compliance. You need to keep the government totally away from them. You need to allow failures to take place. You need to allow, people must fail several times over to make a successful startup. So the exits must become extremely easy. And I think the key to all this is that government must be at arm's length and that allow the whole ecosystem of venture funds to grow. You must have, we have close to about 100 venture funds. You need about 1 million venture funds and angel investors in India to just go and spread out, do the mentoring, do the hand-holding, be the catalyst. And that's the route forward.
You can see the enthusiasm that led to 2 articles in the media last Saturday. There was Sunshine Man, which was an interview in the Business Standard. That was you, Mr. Sunshine Man. And the other one was an article in the Outlook magazine, which described you as India's most influential babu. That must have made you very popular in government.
Well, I just try and do my work, John. I've always believed in just doing what is given to me. I'm not here to change the world. I'm given a task, I look at myself as a manager, and a manager must deliver. So whatever task I'm given, I just go all out with all enthusiasm, works with stakeholders and try and deliver that particular program.
Okay, let's move on to the Make in India campaign. I looked at the website, and the website says the aim is to design and to turn India into a design and manufacturing hub to create jobs. 18 months since it was launched, or
it's about
15 months?
It was last October.
Yeah. What's success? How do you measure success, or how will you measure success, and what's been done? And I might add, people are very skeptical, as you know. I mean, I asked several people here over the last couple of days, and I didn't find one person who said, yeah, what a great idea, what a great scheme.
Yeah, but John, you are the ultimate pessimist I've ever met in my life. I mean, I've never come across a person who's more pessimist than you are. I mean, if you look around the world, I mean, let's look around the world for a minute, and let's look around the world, what's happening in the global economy. And, you know, India is today is truly an oasis of growth in the midst of a very barren economic landscape. Look around America, look around Europe, look around China. I mean, India is growing at about 7.4%. If you're not satisfied with that, look at FDI. Look at FDI inflow. Last 17 months, FDI in India has grown by 35%. Globally, FDI has slowed down by 16%. And to my mind, there have been a vast range of, India's economy is going through a structural transformation. We are moving away from a subsidized economy to an economy which is going to be based on efficiency, which is going to be based on factor reforms. And I think you need to look at it in a long-term perspective. Over the next 2 to 3 years, what's going to happen. But to my mind, we are totally on the right track. We are totally on the right direction. You can question the speed of acceleration, but the direction is absolutely right.
You didn't answer my question. My question, your comment, by the way, just backed up what you said to me on the telephone yesterday, which I'm anti-government. You accused me of being anti-government, so I said, this government or any government? And you said any government, which I take that as something to be proud of. As an independent journalist, to be regarded by a bureaucrat as anti-government, I think is a great tribute. But you didn't answer my question. The question was the manufacturing, the Make in India campaign, how do you measure its success? What's it done so far? Now, when I asked you this on the phone yesterday, you said, look at 35% increase in FDI. You can't compare FDI increasing over the last 18 months, 15 months, whatever the time was, as an effect of this campaign, which started at the same time. No, so FDI takes much longer to build up than that. So none of what you've just said is actually a result of the campaign.
So I think, to my mind, you'd compare manufacturing. I mean, if you look at Make in India, whether the direction in terms of making India a far more easier and a far more simpler place to do business in. I think to my mind there's a huge focus on making India just become far more easier, simpler. The number of rules, regulations, paperwork, procedures that have been scrapped in the last 17, 18 months is quite mind-boggling. I mean, much more is in the way. There's structural transformation in terms of bankruptcy laws, etc., which will enable better quick exit. But I think India has become a far more open economy in terms of the global economy. We've opened up construction, we've opened up railways, we've opened up defense, we've opened up just about every sector of India's economy. So in terms of foreign direct investment, and you are living in a globalized world, and therefore you need to become a very integral part of the global supply chain.
I agree you've done those things, absolutely. There's no dispute on that a whole load of things have been loosened up over the past year. But businessmen, if you go to Bombay, where I was a week or two ago, people are not reacting. They still say this government is not performing on these sorts of things.
So John,
I'm being a reporter. I'm not giving you my view. I'm giving you the view of people, businessmen I've talked to in Delhi and in Bombay.
So there's two. You know, I have an alternative perspective on that. I think Indian economy, if you were to talk to the older set of businessmen, which you often tend to do, the Indian economy is going through a paradigm shift. India's economy is moving from an older economy to a very younger economy. I think there's an overcapacity which had been created. Banks have been, they've been overexposed. And as far as the older set of economy is concerned, if you look at cement, if you look at steel, if you look at some of these traditional sectors of Indian economy, that will take a little time. I have no doubt about that it's going to take a little time for banks to restructure, for demand to build up. There's a lot of lack of local demand in the Indian economy right now. But if you look at the newer set of economy, in a wide range of new areas of growth, Indian economy is doing extremely well in the newer areas of growth. If you were to look at also the foreign direct investment, India is doing extremely well. And I would suggest to you, it's very important to understand that the nature of India's economy is radically altering itself. And people like you are just fixed on the older set of India's economy. You've not made a shift from the older generation to the younger generation. You are frozen in time.
Well, I hope you're right. And I think Make in India as a brand is brilliant. No businessman, no business delegation dares visit this country at the moment without saying Make in India. Yeah. Whether they then do it, even the Russians are saying Make in India for their helicopters. Do you think the Russians are really going to make half their helicopters in this country?
No,
Russia never abides by the rules.
No, but one of the good things...
And the French too have been bullied into this on Rafale.
Yeah, but
you have bullied the French on Rafale.
So I think, to my mind, one of the best things that's happened in India is that India had become the largest importer of defense equipments across the world. I mean, there's no reason at all why India should be importing defense equipment. I mean, the biggest imports today in India are that of defense equipment. There was a vested interest. Imports were taking place. At least we've now said that all these defense equipments which India needs should be manufactured in India. Rather than importing Russian helicopters, rather than importing French aircraft, they should better be manufactured here. What's wrong with that?
Well, exactly.
Why not manufacture them here? So you want technical...
Do you think that will happen?
Yeah,
on these projects, the 50% we expect on
So if you look at Boeing, if you look at Airbus, all of them have started manufacturing here in partnership with some of the most dynamic companies.
I agree with that, and defence was one area which the previous government left ready to move, and it's moved. But we haven't yet seen people coming here to actually do it.
So actually, last couple of months, we've had a change in the defence offset policy. We've had a change in the defence procurement policy. And I think what you're going to see is a huge, vast amount of change in terms of manufacturing within India in the next couple of months for defence.
Okay. The main criticism that people make about the Make in India policy is that it won't create jobs. That what you'll be creating is jobs in high-tech labour. But 2 points. India has not got the low costs and efficiency in order to produce the sort of stuff China does, and the jobs that are created will be high-tech. So you're not doing your primary thing of creating jobs. What do you say to that?
Well, there are several layers of manufacturing, John.
Okay, you've got 25 sectors.
So one is that India will have to do...
These are the ones that I'm frozen in time on. The ones you want the jobs in are the ones where I'm supposed to be frozen, but they're not going to get the investment.
Yeah, but the problem with journalists like you who sit in golf links in New Delhi and who never step out of New Delhi and Jaipur is that you never go down. I mean, I've never seen you stepping out of golf links or Delhi, or the maximum you travel is to Jaipur for the literary festival. It's important. It's important that people like you must move out to places like Karnataka. You must get into places like Andhra Pradesh or Telangana to just see the kind of revolution that is taking place in the world of textiles.
Thank you.
You must get in to see what's happening in the field of leather. You must get in to see what's happening in the field of gems and jewelry, to see the kind of jobs that are being created. And it's very, very important to understand that manufacturing in India will have several layers. You'll have very high-tech manufacturing in defense, you'll have robots, you'll have 3D manufacturing, but you'll also have labor-intensive manufacturing, and you'll have many startups as well.
I was in Bihar a month ago, by the way. 25 sectors.
That's the first time in his life John has ever been to Bihar. You know, he's never stepped out of golf links ever. The first time he stepped out of golf links was to go to Bihar.
Before we'd even heard of you, and you were mucking about down in Kerala helping fishermen to fish, I was in helicopter with Lalu Prasad Yadav going around in Bihar. But you did good work for the fishermen. I mean, that was easy, what you did for the fishermen in Kerala, wasn't it? Much easier than what you have to do now. How are you going to sort out Niti Aayog? What are you going to do when you get there? I mean, it's the most underperforming institution the government's got, isn't it?
You know, well, I haven't stepped in there in a big way as yet. I'm just doing my job as Secretary DIPP. But Niti needs to be a transformational institution. It needs to radically alter. You need an institution which will converge and integrate several departments of the government, bring in radical changes, bring in a completely new thought process to my mind, and that's really the job. You need a good think tank in India. That's what's the job of Niti Aayog.
Of the 25 sectors that you've identified within the policy of Make in India, which are the sectors where you expect jobs to be created in a significant amount of time?
Well, in terms of growth, let me try and break that down. And in terms of growth, defense will be a very key driver. Automobile will be a very key driver. But in terms of job creation, textile, leather, to my mind, food processing will be a very big driver of job creation. And that's critical for India. You can't have growth without jobs.
And is that going to be foreign investment, or is that going to be domestic investment?
Both. You can't look at an economy by just saying domestic investment. There's no such thing as domestic investment. It has to be both external and domestic investments, both. We are very much in a highly globalized world.
Right. Let's open it up. And one question there in the middle. I'm moving on because we've got 10 minutes left.
Why don't you come in front?
The mic's coming.
You know, if you look at the economy across the world, exports are falling. I mean, in China's case, they've been falling for about 16 months, and they've fallen very sharply. That's because the global economy is shrunk. India's exports have shrunk as well. It's a worrying factor because India's share of the global economy is very, very small in terms of exports. To my mind, it's important that we push our exports, but I think India's growth in the coming months will have to be largely domestically driven, not export driven, simply because the size of the global economy is shrinking right now.
One here.
Do you think Make in India has a danger of going to the China way? We're going on a China way, and China is not doing particularly well at this moment of time.
Well, China's growth strategy was totally export driven. In India's case, export is a very, very minuscule percentage of your growth. It's out of the total exports, India accounts for just about 1.6% of the global exports. So India's growth has largely been driven by the domestic economy. We have India's growth strategy is totally different from China. Let's not get carried away. You can't ever in your life become another China. You have to have an Indian strategy of growth and an Indian model of growth. Just don't ape the Chinese model.
So what's the model? Tell us the model.
Yeah. To my mind, the energy, the dynamism of India's youth is very, very different from China's model. What India is achieving in terms of 1 billion smartphone, in terms of 950 million Aadhars, in terms of about 200 million bank accounts, it's possible for India to become one of the most disruptionist economies ever in the world by bringing in the cost of transaction down to a very, very marginal percent. And to my mind, in the next 10 to 15 years, you'll see a whole vast number of disruptions taking place by simply the young power of Indian startups.
But businessmen say that the problem at the moment is that the bureaucrats at the end of the internet thing, you do everything by the end of the system, whether it's in taxation or applications for permissions or whatever, you've still got the same guys at the end of the internet. You've still got the old bureaucrats behaving like they've always behaved, negatively, often wanting a bribe or extortion, and certainly slowing things down. That until you change those attitudes, would you agree, you won't really
So one of the
change.
things, John, we've done is to create this e-biz platform where we've put about 24 services of the government. There's no human interface. There's one single paper, one single point of payment cutting across all the government services. Just one single paper, one single point of payment, and I would suggest to you that you try and do a transaction on the e-biz platform. It's extremely simple.
But
extremely simple. And in the first step, we put 24 services of the government together. In the next step, we are putting 10 different services of state governments, 10 state governments together.
So
end objective is that everyone should be able to transact with one paper, one point of payment across the states.
A question there?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Sir.
Yeah,
Yes,
why don't you go ahead?
Which one? I can't see you. Okay.
Go, stand.
Have you got a mic?
Sir, in
But,
a
I
I got the
have a
mic.
question
So,
there.
good evening, sir. So
in
the
a
quick-
situation
quick
of
question.
global
So
as
the
well
quick
as
question.
domestic recession and all type
Where-
of infrastructure
Where is the question?
Where's the question? The
Sir
question
John,
is
whom
here
did
in
you
the middle.
nominate? Yeah. So, good evening, sir. Because you are the person who is at the helm of, first of all, in order to determine my ability to ask a question, I'll share my travel itinerary. I've traveled throughout the country. So, before you discard my question on the basis of my travel itinerary. So, I'm a person who is settled in Scotland, but an international, travel across the country for 25 years. My question to you is, I'm slightly confused of this government stand on beef exports and the beef production. While it certainly has its religious allegiance, etc., RS has its own role in play. But we are one of the leading beef exporters of the country. Because you're envisioning India growing up on an industrial strategy, do you think we'll still be leading in beef exports? We'll be cutting it down? There'll be complete ban? What is the real stand?
Well, personally, I'm not a believer in beef exports at all. I believe that government shouldn't get into these areas at all. I mean, government should just push for exports in these areas. Government's job is to create jobs. Government's job is to become a facilitator, a catalyst, allow economy to grow.
So we'll ban it domestically, but we'll continue exporting.
No, I'm not a believer in banning at all. I grew up in Kerala, Kada, where every Hindu eats beef. Every single Naya, every single Brahmin eats beef. So I'm a great believer in everybody doing according to his wish and will.
A question down here.
Hello.
Yeah.
This one.
Sir,
No, here.
Hi.
Hi.
Without sounding pessimist, we are talking.
I think John
that's
has
what-
spread a lot of his pessimism all across.
I was
Yeah.
just thinking that you may point me that I'm a pessimist,
Yeah.
but without sounding that, when like you have said that the exports have been plummeted, if we see the track records, I think we don't, and we are talking more about Make in India, we don't adhere to the quality. Quality is is the core to increase the export, and I think we should more pay attention to the quality.
Well, that's a very, very, very valid and a very relevant point that has been made by the young lady
And
here.
especially in
and
the
she's
food
talking
and
about
pharmaceuticals.
she's talking about quality, and that's something which all Indians, I think the two things which all of us must focus on, and that's something which must come from within us. The one is about cleanliness across our cities, across our states, and second is about maintaining high quality of our products.
No, excuse me. The guy in the yellow sweater further back? All right.
The red sweater can go ahead in the meanwhile.
Come on, one moderator.
Good evening. I will like to take pessimism a bit ahead. I come from Andhra Pradesh.
Yeah.
So the job creation you were talking about, there are around 2.5 lakh engineers who come out. And I work with Monster. I had worked with Monster. So I can give you the numbers right. There were 2.5 lakh engineers approximately who come out of Andhra Pradesh. Not even 10% get placed or have jobs.
But why do you want a job? Why don't you start your own business? Why don't you become an entrepreneur?
I'll give you my own answer of being an
I mean,
entrepreneur.
the government can't provide you jobs anymore.
I'll give you my answer of being an
Just
entrepreneur.
become an entrepreneur.
I'll give you an answer of being an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
I started my own company.
Yeah.
It took me 3 months to start a company. It took me 3 days to stop it. So that fast the government works.
Yeah.
So no offense meant, but that is the reality.
Doesn't
in
matter.
India.
Every single big business across the world, starting from Steve Jobs, has failed at least 4 to 5 times. If you failed, it doesn't matter. Failure must become a part of your life. You'll succeed if you fail. Don't bother about it.
I thought.
But let me just make this point, that it will be impossible for government to provide jobs. All of you must aim to become future entrepreneurs.
I thought we'd try and lower the I thought we'd try and lower the volume by asking the lady in the front to ask a question.
in a situation
Excuse
of
me, the question
global-
here.
Please, madam.
The question's here.
I have just one comment to make. I heard you say that, one window for everything. I wish I lived long enough to see that.
Ma'am, see what has happened. I'll tell you, it was physically impossible to do a thing like that in our generation without the use of digital technology. Digital technology today has enabled several things to happen, which were just not possible earlier. So I think what eBiz does is simply use digital technology to converge and integrate several departments together. I will be extremely happy, madam, if you come to, if you give me your address, I'll invite you over. Please have a look at that, so that we make you realize that some things have happened during your time.
Two people have got mics.
In
Very
a
quick
situation
question.
of demand recession, domestic as well as global, and the shabby state of infrastructure, how this Make in India program will succeed?
Christine, quickly.
Mr. Kant, very quickly, I'm a Scot born in Kerala and I live in Delhi, unlike my friend here who's
But not in
left.
golfing.
And I'm heavily involved in promoting exports from India, but I work in the unorganized sector and we really need help from your government because it's very difficult to make things happen in Moradabad, Panipat and all these places. So I invite you to Moradabad one day.
Sure.
Then this is the last one.
There was a comment made about shabby infrastructure. Well, you know, I can't provide solution for all the problems of India. I'm not here to provide that. As long as, you know, you give me some issue relating to my department, I'll be very happy to try and solve that.
One last.
If Make in India program has to succeed, what's your plan that you have not really spoken about? Is from where are you going to bring energy for that? I mean the power.
So energy, there's a huge plan of non-renewable energy. The entire focus is, I don't know whether you're aware of a 175 gigawatt plan for renewable energy. Entire focus is on non-renewable energy so that India becomes an extremely sustainable and an innovative nation as we go along. And I think a number of bids have taken place. I think in the last 6 to 7 months, we've made about 15 to 16 bids at some of the lowest costs have come into India to just push forward on the renewable energy side.
Let me play straight into Amitabh's hands. Would those of you who are more convinced about the Make in India campaign, having heard him, please raise your hands? Thank you. And those of you who are not? I'm afraid that's 2 to 1 against you.
No.